Alright, Beyond the Blue RC. I wasn't going to film this, but then once I got to the point of actually getting this semi-installed, I thought, you know what, I think I should film this because this was much more of a pain than I thought it was going to be. And now that I'm looking at this plastic drive shaft, I'm kind of wishing I would have ordered the metal drive shaft because that I'm not happy with. But, oh well, at least I know how to take it apart now. It won't be as much of a deal, hopefully the second time. If I do replace that, I don't know. Anyway, so right now I'm replacing the front steering assembly with this Hot Racing aluminum adjustable servo saver steering, for the UDR. So that was pretty tight. So I did loosen it up and then kind of tighten it back down. Hand tight, that was pretty smoked down there, but not so much now. You do want to make sure that you lock tight this screw here and this screw over here because they are not Loctited from the factory. This comes put together from the factory, but those don't have Loctite on them, so you want to make sure that you take those out. You take it out of the package and just put Loctite on each one of them, each screw. Tighten it back down. And the same thing when you install that screw and that screw, because it's going into metal, you want to Loctite both of those as well. So obviously going to reuse the bearings. So you got two bearings up top here and then a couple larger bearings on the bottom for each one. One there, larger bearing. And then your two smaller bearings up top. You're going to reuse those and just snug these down, not too tight, but snug them down, these two screws. There you go. And now I'll show you what I had to do. I took the main skid plate off. I don't know if I needed to or not, but I did it anyway. And then of course I was taking this skid plate off, trying to figure out how to get to it. And finally I realized that I needed to loosen up. I needed to remove the whole entire diff from the truck. In order to do that, there is 4 screws. Screw here, screw there, screw here, and then a screw right there. So you remove those, and then you pull your pins for your A-arms, top and bottom. There. So those are your, those are the pinholes for your upper A-arms right there, and then your lower A-arms pins go in those holes right there, right here and right here. So this will go back in like that. And once I got the screws out, felt like I got everything out, so it just pop out. There is this drive shaft you do have to kind of like this, and then up and out, and then it comes right out. So there's that. And I'm making a mess, but so those are your pins. 2 smaller ones are your upper arms, and the 2 larger ones are your lower arms for your to install those, reinstall them, whatever you want to call it. And I did have to slide out my sway bars right there, slide them out a little bit so I could pull this, because this is all one assembly. So I had to pull those out so I could separate the cage a little bit to get this out of there, just to get it out of my way so I could get the pins out. Now obviously this right here bar goes in here, so that has to come out. Although maybe it didn't have to. Once I might not have had to actually, but this stuff that needs to come out because that's what's holding your pins in, your upper pins. And these right here are holding your lower pins in. No, these are holding your upper pins in. These are holding your lower pins in. Because this thing's upside down, I'm getting myself all backwards here. So Yep. And then of course I did remove these. I don't know if you necessarily had to remove this. If you had to remove the steering blocks, but I've got these hot racing ones I'm going to upgrade to, so I needed to remove them anyway. So, but I don't know. I mean, it probably made it easier because this. I mean, I guess you didn't have to. It might have been okay, but it made it easier to work on removing them, and I had to redo it anyway. You might be able to get away with doing this without removing those. I saw another guy who had removed the entire shock assembly and I was trying not to do all that. So that's how I did it. I didn't remove, he removed the shocks and pulled the whole thing, then just had the whole thing come off. But I didn't want to do that. I had to. I didn't want to do that if I didn't have to. So anyway, so now I'm going to start putting this thing back together. See how that goes. All right, so once you get your drive shaft lined up, and you'll know it is because it'll click. You feel it click into place. And everything's turning like it's supposed to. Then I reinstalled that screw and then this screw over here just to snug this up so I can get my pins back in. And I slid my two top pins in for my lower arms, and then I'll slide my upper pins in, and then we'll go from there. Oh, I don't think I actually zoomed in on the part number there for this steering assembly. UDR 4801 hot racing. Pretty cool once I actually got it installed. It's actually feels nice and smooth. So it should be a lot better than the stock one. Should be. Alright, I did forget to say, once you put these two pins in right here, you'll put your chassis plate brace, this brace back up in here. Then you'll slide these pins in, and then you'll screw this pin holder back into place like I already did there. So I'm going to reinstall that one, and then I'm going to put those 4 screws back in up top. I'll flip her over and reinstall them. Alright, I did get these 4 screws reinstalled. That one there, that one. Come on. That one. And that one over there. Now, it's a little trickier coming at it here. I needed a little more length, so I did use, this screwdriver. It's a Traxxas, just because this one wasn't long enough. It's fine for the back ones, but it wasn't long enough for these front ones. So luckily I have some nice tools, and this is one of my Traxxas bits. So yeah, that worked. I did loosen up these the ones I showed you that I tightened before on the bottom. I did loosen them up a little bit. Those ones right there on each side, just to help with alignment, just in case that was a problem. I don't know if you can really tell, but yeah, I loosened them two back up, so now I gotta tighten them back down. Alright, so I retightened down that screw and that screw again. That one right there. Then I reinstalled my lower A-arm pin bracket. So these two screws, screwed them back in. So that's all good to go. Now I gotta start reinstalling this thing here. That just slides back on, pops back in there. And then start putting the skid plate back on there. Button all this up. Alright, so getting it back in was a lot harder than removing it. So I basically had to take out that screw. Well, those were already out. I had to take out the screw that went in there and the screw that went in down here, and that gave me a little more leverage. I was able to get the that side. I was able to get that side in without having to do that, but this other side would not go in, so I had to remove these two other screws, and then I was able to pry it open just enough to get it to slide back in, just like that. So now we're in. And I've already installed that plate. That was just a matter of just popping it back in. Pretty easy, actually. A lot easier than taking it out. That's for sure. So now I'm going to reinstall my screws and get this all back together again, more or less here. At least that's the plan anyway. There we go. Yep. So, yeah, that popped back in. So pops back out like that, and you just kind of pop it back in like that. And just line up your screws, which I'm going to do now. Get this all buttoned up, and I can start putting these other screws back in. Oh my goodness. Alright, now that I got this thing more or less buttoned up, I'm going to do my finish up my sway bars last. I'm not worried about that right now. I'll probably do that at the very last step. This hasn't been Loctited yet. This screw goes into my servo horn yet. Servo horn, and then this link. I haven't fully tightened that down yet, because I may still need to take that out to just check and make sure these are all free flowing, but so far so good. Because now I got to install these Hot Racing aluminum heavy duty bearing steering blocks. Part number TUDR21M01. Pretty cool. They come with hardware and bearings, so that's nice. And they are marked right and left, just like the stock part, as you can see. So this should be pretty simple, hopefully. Alright, got the steering blocks installed. As you can see, looking pretty good. Obviously got the tires back on there. You're obviously going to want to Loctite your screws here. So you got to screw up top, and you got to screw down here. Although that's the bottom and that's the top technically, but so you want to Loctite those, and then you want to Loctite. Well, those are already Loctite those, but you want to Loctite that screw right there. So basically this screw right here. That one. And then I just kind of re-Loctited my caliper back in there as well. Just, there was already, well, no, I did Loctite the screw that goes into the caliper too, because they gave you new hardware, so I just went ahead and used the new hardware. So yes, I did Loctite this screw that goes into the caliper that secures the caliper. So there's 1, 2, 3, 4 screws per hub here that you want to screw in and Loctite. And obviously the same thing on the other side. Same thing on the other side here. Same thing over here. Went pretty smoothly. Got my drive shafts back in there. Looking pretty good. Got my servo hooked back up, that linkage. If I can get, there we go. Got that hooked up. You obviously want to Loctite that screw too, because that is also metal, going into metal. Not the plastic link, but the actual assembly here is that's metal. This is metal right here. This right here is still, this is metal. So I'm not sure if I'm going to. Hot Racing makes aluminum steering horn and an aluminum link, but I don't know if I'm going to do that now. I don't know that I need to. I may order it as a backup, but I don't think I'm going to upgrade that because got a lot of metal going on here, so I just don't think it's going to be necessary since I did all this. And it really should tighten up the steering quite a bit. Should make the steering feel a lot more precise, a lot smoother. So yeah, I mean, you really can't see it from here, but everything's all buttoned back up except for my skid plates. I need to put those back, reinstall them, and then we'll put a little power on this thing and see it sounds, see how it looks, how it works. All right, finally got the truck done. All the skid plates are back on. All my screws, double and triple check. Everything's good. So these are the stock components I took off. This is the stock steering assembly. Obviously I had to reuse the bearings that were in this. And in the kit for the steering assembly for the Hot Racing one, they did give you a stiffer spring, but I actually kind of like the one that was with it, so I was going to install this one, but this one's pretty stiff, so I'm going to go with the one that they had already pre-installed. But it's cool they gave you the option to have a stiffer spring if you want. So that's cool. It's cool they did that. So yeah, get this thing fired up, see how she looks, and all that good stuff. So I got it powered up here. I don't want to get too close because that fan is really loud. That fan I installed the other day on the motor. But yep, all the way to the right. Sounds good. All the way to the left. Sounds good. No binding. Pretty good. No worries. That's pretty good. That's really good. I do have Bluetooth enabled on this thing, so I did see. I went into garage. You can go to your lights, and you can turn them low and then high. That's pretty cool, and I can do that remotely. And those are bright. And then go back to that mode. So we'll get out of that. Let's see. Let's go back to garage for a second. You can go. Let's see. Is that channel setup? I think it was. Yeah. And you can go under steering, and you can mess with the sub trim, which I didn't really feel like I needed to, once I changed that servo out. You can mess with your endpoints, which I don't feel I need to with this. I did the E-Revo because the E-Revo's got 2 servos, and they're Savox, and they weren't the stock servos, but I think this is good. This is 1 servo, and it's a lot less complicated, so I don't think I need to mess with that. At least not yet, anyway. Seems like I got... Oh, let's see. Seems like I got equal throw. I'm not hearing any binding, which is good. I did... One thing I did do though, and let's go back out, and let's get into let's drive effects. So I did just turn the steering down to 80%. So see how that goes. I can adjust that as I'm driving. I just thought this truck can be a handful, so dial that down to 80%. And that's all I've really messed with so far. I haven't changed anything else. So we'll see that first drive how it feels. I can always fine-tune stuff as you go, but she feels pretty good so far. But yeah, that's all I've done as far as that goes. So yep, looks pretty good. Looks really good, actually. Yep. Fan is so loud. Oh my goodness. Got a lot of stuff to this truck. The hot racing titanium links with aluminum rod ends, the hot racing limiting straps, obviously the hot racing sway bars in the rear and up here in the front. Stuff I did tonight. Steering blocks. And obviously the hot racing carbon fiber plates here. Pretty sweet. The heat sink. They put a heat sink in a... I put a heat sink on the motor. A heat sink and a fan on the motor. You can hear it. Loud. Really loud. Really loud. Obviously the hot racing skid plate there. Venting is really nice. I like that. And these are actually RC four-wheel drive rear trailing arms. RC four-wheel drive. So those are pretty cool. I think I'm just about ready to run this thing. I do wish I had that front. There's a front drive shaft on this is plastic, which I didn't realize. So when I was tearing into it and replacing that steering assembly tonight, I was like, oh, the front drive shaft is plastic. Lovely. So I wish I had that. I could have easily switched that out tonight, but I didn't, so let's put it all back together. Hopefully it stays for a while when I start running this. I'm not going to run it too hard. I'm just going to take it to a couple trails and just have a little fun with it. Well, you know, run at scale. I'm not going to do any crazy jumps with it. That's not what this is for. It's not what I'm going to use it for. Anyway, so I do have the hot racing. You might be able to see it better from the rear, maybe. Yeah, hot racing Traxxas that are also calipers, and then I got the hot racing aluminum calipers too. So those are pretty sweet. Yeah. I think that's all I've done to it. I think. I don't know. I feel like I've always missed something. I mean, the steering assembly that I did tonight. I don't know if you can see it. Yeah, you can see it. I did do that tonight too. That's what I did tonight. Steering rack, hot racing, aluminum steering assembly, and the hot racing. Steering blocks there. So anyway, I think this video is long enough. Beyond the Blue RC, if you enjoyed watching this video, please like, subscribe, smash the notification bell, keep on RCing out there.